Welcome, friends! I am Chimi, the Inquirer of Plots, suspector of sequels, and more importantly, your host this evening. Tonight's movie's going to make you coil in terror. It's Gorgon, which came out in 1964, starring Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. When Professor Height's son, Bruno, is found mysteriously dead, Professor Heights is determined to find out the truth about his son's death. Unable to get answers from this clandestine community, they threaten him, but he stands his ground, and sends for his son Paul to come and aid him in his investigation.
Oh, Paul, this telegram has just arrived from your father. He wants you to go to Vandorf immediately.
Height stays at his dead son's cottage to learn about the dark secrets that shroud the village. One night he hears a siren-like voice singing from the castle. Determined to find out who was singing, he goes to the castle, and to his terror, he locks eyes with the Gorgon, unable to escape her serpentine gaze. In his last moments, he writes a letter to Paul and tells him not to show the letter to another living soul, and mentions a creature from mythology, the Gorgon Magera. Determined to solve his brother's and father's murder, he also stays at the cottage.
The conspiracy of silence and the fear. And he mentions Magera. Does the name mean anything to you, Dr. Namaroff?
You're not suggesting there's any connection between a character from mythology and your father's death.
When he wrote this letter, he knew what
the town's doctor, Dr. Namaroff, does not give him any helpful information, but his assistant, Carla, pays Paul a secret visit, telling him that she will help him investigate, and that Magera's spirit roams the forest. That night, Paul is terrified by the monstrous Magera, but since it was her reflection, he survives. He awakens 5 days later in Dr. Nemiroff's hospital, being aged by the encounter. Paul digs up his father's grave, but what secrets he unearths only confirms the letter that his father gave him. After not hearing a word from Paul, Professor Meister, Paul's tutor, comes to see him. Seeing that Paul is in need of help, Professor Meister offers to help. He and Paul go to the police station, looking for all women who arrived in the last 10 years. Carla arrived around the same time that the murder started. Paul dismisses this notion because he is in love with Carla.
Does it look like her?
It hardly does her justice, but...
It looks like her.
Unable to get the doctor to answer any of their questions, Professor Meister breaks into Dr. Nemiroff's office to retrieve a file on Carla. It's stated that she tends to black out on nights when a full moon is out, along with no memory of that time, which is when Magera is out for the hunt.
Magera died 2,000 years ago. It's her spirit we're concerned with today. It's found a resting place in somebody. Not Carla.
Carla visits Paul, but Dr. Nemiroff and the police show up at Paul's house to get Carla, but she is not there. Paul has told Carla to take the train so she can be free from Dr. Nemiroff, and they can meet after he has killed Magera. But Professor Meister suspects that Carla won't be on that train, but in the castle since it is a full moon. Later, Paul calls the hotel that Carla is supposed to stay at, but she is not there. So Paul plans to go out and look for her, which is utter madness. But for his safety, Professor Meister forbids him to go out.
In an hour's time it'll be dark. Wait until the morning. Paul, you won't find Carla. Get out of my way. I Sorry, Paul, but I can't let you destroy yourself.
So Paul sneaks out the window at the same time that the police are coming to arrest him on the false charge of abduction. When Paul is nowhere to be found, the police threaten to arrest Professor Meister instead. He also escapes out the window. When Paul arrives at the castle, he sees Dr. Nemiroff. Dr. Nemiroff suspected for a long time that Carla has been the host for the spirit of Magera. But tonight, he plans to put Carla out of her misery. Paul is horrified at this notion and fights Nemiroff.
She's free now, Paul.
Looks like she got ahead of herself. I gotta say that I love her hair. It has a lot of movement.